Hi, thank you for joining us today on our Next Best Practice webinar on the 10 features in SoftTech V6 3.7 and what these can mean for you. We'll just give another few more seconds for some more people to join us. I see there's people actively joining now, and then we can start with our introductions. Thanks. So the reason why we are running these webinars, or the SoftTech webinar series, is to help our customers to grow their business. Today's webinar is going to be run by Murat Alis. He's joining us as today's speaker. As mentioned, we'll be talking through our 10 new features in SoftTech 3.7. Murat has been with SoftTech for over 15 years. He's currently based out of Turkey. He is a solutions architect on our sales support team at the moment, although during his time with SoftTech, he's worked in our professional services team. During these years, he's played an important customer-facing role with V6 and implementation. And throughout his time, Murat has worked on many of our key projects with some of our biggest global customers. So thanks again for joining us on our webinar. If you do have any questions during the webinar, please use the GoToWebinar questions box to fill these in, and we will get through to the questions at the end of our presentation. I'll hand over to you, Murat.
Yeah, hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the new functionalities in 3.7 version of V6. We limited to 10 major enhancements, but I mean, maybe some of you you may already know we have lots of enhancements in that version. I can list about 100 enhancements, varies from the small to the larger ones, but we will focus to a few of them and see how that can help you. So the main reason of 3.7 upgrade was, of course, as all the software upgrades from different software companies, is improving the user experience of users. In this version 3.7, you will see the menus, the ribbons, and the overall experience of the user will be better. It's more, I can say, user-friendly, and you will see that right away when I start the presentation. The look and feel is a little different. Also, the database setup, we had some new functionalities to improve that. And in overall, the experience will be robust with the new function, the new version of V6. As I said, there are about hundreds of functionalities, and then we can maybe narrow down to another 30, 40. But in overall, if I want to highlight a couple of features, I highlighted 10 about them. The first one is the navigation bar, then the customizable unlimited code options, and we will discuss them in deep in a moment. So I'm not explaining right now, but you will see the explanation in a bit. Ability to add finish groups and colors to any resources. Especially for the windows and doors, we can add mid-raise now from the outer frame level. The jointing enhancements, we'll talk about them in a bit. Then resource image enhancements. There are a couple of different areas that we covered and which improved the user experience. Default child assemblies, that's another functionality that I like and will improve, especially if you do curtain walls. It's a great functionality and I will explain that in a bit as well. Then to quote item batches and alternative quote items. That may help probably the estimators. There are a couple of features which will enable users, other than the grouping, which is effectively used by customers, but the grouping is usually used for fabrication process, and this is more for something that can be used in the sales estimation process. Then the quote banks and flexible quote numbers, prefix, suffixes, which before we were able to do that only via some custom written macros. So yeah, again, just a little bit of information about our software and our purpose. So in overall, I believe V6 users, with the support we provide, that is definitely helping you guys to improve accuracy and get the professional outputs out of V6 and increase the efficiency in your factory and in your business. All right, so I guess we can shift now to V6 part of this. So I'm hoping you can see my screen now with the V6.
Yeah, that's all good, Murat. Good to go.
All right, good. So the first one in the list is navigation bar, and you can see right away this here. So normally to open a browser or to create a new resource, we were using, first of all, we go to resource, then we go to, for example, frame. And then from there, either we open an existing one or we click the new button. And this is valid for all the resources. Right now, what we have here is a navigation bar. So if I want to open a resource frame here, I have a button. So I can browse the frames. I can just create a new frame on the fly, or I can open a few of the already existing frames that recently I edited. So I know that I edited this one, so I can click it. And then the frame is open right away. So this is this navigation bar is customizable in settings. So I can decide how many items to show here. So it can, right now it's set up to 10, but I can make it 3 or 5 or even more. So this is valid for quotes. Then if you use the orders for orders, then for customers, frames, attachment bags, these components, glass, extrusions, and the gasket, which is also a new resource in 3.7. So I believe this will really help both the database developers as well as the end users if they want to access some of the recent resources that they worked on, and they can right away open it and edit them. And how we change the existing like the list, I will show you that in settings. Okay, so if you go here, the navigation bar, This is where we decide which items to show up in that vertical bar, and then the default action. And also we can decide maximum history items, where it will be. You can put it at, on the left side, top, right, or bottom. And you can switch off completely if you don't want to see this one. All right, so the next one in the list is the options, what I call customizable unlimited code options. As you know, in V6, normally number of options are limited to 5 for glass and 5 for finish, and so on. So, and the most used options, of course, are glass and finish. Now this one is improved in V6. We have now ability to add custom options, and with that we can limit. I will just show you in a bit. If I go here, default options. Yeah, so this is one example of custom options here. So if you see here, in previous functionality in V6, we were always having 5 items here that user can edit. Right now, this is not anymore limited to that. You can remove or you can add more. And also you can put together and attach to different product types. So in this case, I have one finish option group called aluminum extrusion finish options. So here there's an exterior and interior finish. And then there is another one, another group created for PVC options. So when you add a product, if the product has this group of options attached, then automatically the other options will disappear, and you will see this group showing up together. And also the grouping is not anymore, like only finish, then glass, then the others. So you can have one parent group having 2 finish questions, and then the glass, and then the component finish, and maybe some other option. So you can group them in one file, one big group, and then accordingly attach to product types. So that's pretty useful. And the main advantage, of course, is when you have more than 5 options. Today it was not possible, so now you can add as many as you want. It's unlimited. All right, the next one I will talk about is the ability to add finish groups and colors to resources. So in V6, when we add a finish in extrusions or components in 3.6 version, it was limited to a certain, like the certain type can be added only in certain resource. So in extrusions, we were able to add only finish groups, and in components, we were only able to add finish colors, but not the groups. And especially for the customer using the native functionality for handling the component hardware finishes, sometimes it makes difficult, especially let's say you have a powder coating finish that you want to add in the components, and if you have in your finish group 200 powder coating raw colors, then you need, before you had to add them all one by one, and it was quite a big process. So right now it's not that anymore. So if I go to the components list and just open one of them, you can see here we have option to add a finish group or a finish color. And if I click finish group, it will bring the list of finish groups. And if I click the finish color, I can just add a specific color from the list. And all these RAL colors. Normally I was adding one by one, but now from the finish group, I can come here and say I want to add the powder coating. Then it's going to add that in this list. This can be managed by a user, what to show here. So this is another setting in options. So you can say, okay, I want to continue as it is. Only add finish color button will be enabled for components. And then add finish group for extrusions maybe. So what to show here, you can show both or either of them. That can be controlled in settings options. That can be controlled for both components, extrusions, and the new gasket resource. All right, then the next one I will show about is the ability to split nested frames from the parent frame. So here I have one frame that I already built. It's a casement windows, and there's a side light on the right side, fixed window. The normal process for this was like I need to go to the sash, then go here and run the split light wizard to that sash. So now V6 is a little smarter. So what happens is that from the outer frame level, I can run the light by light glazing wizard, and that will allow me to split the nested frame lights. So I click this button. So I'm selecting this light. Then we have the split light button now, which is not available in 3.6. I click that. I'm gonna switch off my video so you guys can see maybe full screen better. I input 2 as light code. Click OK. Click OK again. Now you can see the light is split. So automatically the system identified the nested frame having the glass receptor and splitted that light. Now if I show you the cross section, the vertical one, you will see now the mid rail has been added in the vertical cut in that sash. If I show you the nested frame, yeah, you can see that this nested frame has been split to 2 different light, and this SMD was having the glass receptor. So that's why that frame has been split instead of the sash or the parent outer frame. So that's yeah, pretty useful feature. It will allow us to directly split the nested frames from the outer frame level. Now I will talk about the joint type enhancements. Those are also very useful enhancements. I like them a lot. What has been changed in V6 is that now we have ability to add formulas in specific point that represent a joint. So in this case, there is a T joint here between the head and the intermediate vertical. So if I open that, click Edit button, and go to the joint formulas, you see some formulas attached to different layers here. First of all, I will show you my test case and how that works. So right now, if I click the author frame, it's one piece. Let me just activate only the main layer, so it's going to be easier to pick items. Yeah, so this is my author frame head, and it's just one piece. I have one attribute added here. The name is split head, and right now the value is false. So when I change that to true, you will see that there will be some change in this frame. I'm going to run this option wizard so that we can see directly here the effect of that attribute change. So I'm running this, go to the frame attributes, and then scroll down to this split head. Now I'm changing that to true. You see automatically that head has been split to two pieces. Click close. Now I can see there's one piece here and then the other piece here. And I can change that back to full easily. So if I go back here, split head false, again, this is just one piece. There are lots of areas you could use that functionality for. For example, you can add, if you add a door in storefront, then you may need to change a joint type surrounding the door. So you'll be able to do that automatically. And also, when you add a door or a vent in curtain wall, you can use that. Or like in this case, if you have a casement system and you have a continuous head or continuous sill, which needs to be split when you add a window on one of the lights, that also you can achieve. There are many areas you could use this functionality. Now, if I go back to this point, click Edit, then go to Joint Formulas, you can see my formula here. I will open the formula to just show you what's in there. You see there is one attribute called split head, and it's frame attribute split head, the value. If the split head is true, then I have HSP, which means head is split as a joint, abbreviation. So that means a split head. Otherwise, it's horizontal run-through. Okay. So that's how we achieve here the split versus the horizontal run-through joint. If you come here and you have a formula to shift between vertical run-through to horizontal run-through, or from corner miter to something else, you could do that the same way with a formula. Right now, this enhancement is done only in frame level. So you need to have a pre-configured frame to do this, to add those formulas. But there is another enhancement that is in progress right now, and pretty soon you will get a build with that new enhancement. With that one, the same formula joint functionality will be added in frame types as well. What that means, if you run the grid frame wizard, for example, if you add a new frame on the fly to the code, then run the grid frame wizard and say like it's going to be 2 by 2. Then in that case, if you have some joint formula to be calculated automatically, that will work the same way as in pre-configured frames. So the system will check the frame type and will bring all the formulas and attach to the points that are relevant. So, and the next time, let's say if you do 1-1 light code with no sash in it, when you add a sash, automatically the joint can change, for example, if you have such formula. So that's about the joint formula enhancements. there is another enhancement which is related with joint configurations. What that means, usually the requirement is, let's say we are shifting from vertical run through to horizontal run through, everything in the design. But while doing that, maybe another layer is only vertical run through, so I don't want to change that. And also maybe some intermediate joints are still horizontal run through. So right now, if you want to change joints, what you need to do, the common ones, you need to select like that manually and decide which joint type you want. And this is applicable to all layers. So if you don't want that, what you need to do is right click, go to that layer and change the joint type. So you need to do that one by one. So if you want to change the main layer to corner miter, then maybe another layer to horizontal run through, another one to vertical run through. And if those are optional, you need to do that one by one. And it's going to take a lot of time. Now what we have here is joint template functionality. With joint template, we can change all the joints to the desired one automatically with a click of button. I come here, say the joint will be horizontal run through. Yes, you see now these are horizontal run through and these are also horizontal run through. If I say vertical run through, yes, now the joints are vertical run through. If I go to the solid drawing, you may see that better. This is how the joint looked like. Corner miter, changed. Horizontal run through, changed. So it's pretty efficient to use this functionality. We can easily change the joints to a pre-configured templates. Where we set up that, those are done in frame types. If I go to that frame type that I was using, and go to joints, here I just decide what's gonna be all my joints. So the main layer, it's gonna be corner miter through, for example, all the corners. All right. So, and the intermediate will be vertical run through, and the rest is fine. So I want to save this as a new template. I click that button and name it as corner miter through, or we can call it T. Click OK. Now this is added in the system. I click OK. If I come back here, I need to add again a new frame to have that change reflected. So I'm going to the same one. Okay, now if I go to the joint list, I have corner miter through as well. If I shift from horizontal run through to corner miter through, it's gonna do that. All right, so that was about the joint templates. I guess we covered the enhancements related with the joints, and I believe it will be very useful for the users to use those functionalities and upcoming frame type joint formula as well. All right, since I finished with that frame, I can remove that. So we are back in our first frame. Next one in the list is resource image enhancements. The first one probably you notice right away is better quality quote item thumbnails generated automatically. And this is valid for quote items as well as resource frames. So if you see here, I have an item preview that is generated automatically. I don't need to go here and click thumbnail button after switching off points, lines to get a proper thumbnail. It is done automatically here with some extra information about height, width, and quantity also added in this preview window. This is also valid for resource frames. So if I come here, you see here a couple of thumbnails for different frames and all looking like similar in the way it's done, but this is not done manually anymore. So whenever I create a new frame, I design on the grid frame wizard. When I'm happy, click OK. This thumbnail is automatically getting generated, and it's looking like the other one. It's consistent, the outputs, and it's much nicer. So then the next one is for the extrusions as well. We have thumbnails available, so that is also getting generated automatically by the software, and that's also very useful functionality. Can be used that's not only for extrusions, we can also use it for assemblies. So if I go to the list of assemblies, you can see, and it's easier to open some of the assemblies right away by clicking. And if an assembly is dummy, then it doesn't show anything. And you can switch between the views with this button. So if you want the old view to be shown, you can see it. If you want to switch back to graphical view, you can do that as well. In that area, another enhancements is about the components. Now we can add picture to components as well. So if I open a component, here we have this thumbnail button. So you can click and pick one bitmap from the list, click OK, and then that's going to appear here. And also this picture, we have a link in our quick report. You can also print them. So that means, and typically when you print a cutting list or an purchase order, we were able to print the profile pictures or extrusion cutting plan. We were using that quite often. Now we will be able to print hardware pictures as well. Also, it's it's quite handy as a functionality. And another enhancements in that area again is in the quote. When you are in the quote, if I go to the BOM, now if I click a piece of profile, I can see the preview as well. And same thing is valid for component. If I have a picture attached to the component, then I can see that preview from here. And it's quite easy. Sometimes you want to test and check the BOM, but if the description is not descriptive and you need to figure out which item is this, now you can see that, okay, this is the sash, and you can see the picture of it as well. And the final one is all these thumbnails that are automatically getting generated for extrusions, components, assemblies. These will be useful in the attribute level as well. So if we create a picker attribute, so if I go here and add a new attribute, or we can create on the fly a new one. So if we do a picker attribute, You can see these are available here as well. And also, if you create a list attribute, if the list item has the code of a certain resource, we will be able to see that thumbnail in the list as well. So again, that eliminates the need of some custom written macros to make it more user-friendly. The selections, now we can do that without a macro requirement. Okay, the next one in the list is default child assemblies. So I'm going to explain that. And this is usually very useful for especially Curtomall databases. So what happens is that sometimes the structure of our database is quite different. Let's say we have a Curtomall system, and if it is structural silicon glazed SSG, then as a first level you have the back member. Then after the back member you have the silicon assembly, and that's it. That's our requirement. And however, if we do a captured one, then we have the back member, and then we have the thermal heat barrier, and after that the pressure plate, and after that the cover cap, and all are child assemblies. And today, if you want to switch between captured and to SSG, we have to design in such a way that we need to create all the dummy assemblies. So if you switch between captured and SSG, every member has a dummy component which can be substituted. So you need a dummy pressure plate, a dummy cover cap, so that everything shifts to the SSG. Now we don't require that anymore. If I open an assembly, in the receptor level, here we have a default assembly property. So what that means is, so for the bead receptor, if in the design my bead receptor is used and I have a bead assembly attached to this, or I have another adapter attached to this outer frame piece of assembly, which is child of this, then when I substitute that with another one, the new it will check the new assembly, the receptor list. So it will tell, okay, I have a bead receptor, and then there is the default assembly, a certain bead. So it will bring that new assembly automatically here in the design. And it's like Lego. So what's going to happen is, let's say in the curtain wall case, I have the SSG back member. So I have one back member and then the silicone assembly. So I go here, I pick my assembly and say, okay, substitute this with another back member assembly, which is captured. What it will do, it will normally, as it does, will bring the new back member, which is captured, but also it will bring automatically the thermal heat barrier. Then the thermal heat barrier will bring automatically the pressure plate, and then the pressure plate will bring automatically the cover cap. So all the items will be brought without any complicated substitution formulas. So that's about this functionality. Next one in the list is quote item batches and alternative quote items. As I said before at the beginning of the meeting, that can be used by sales team for estimation purpose, most likely, I believe. So here we have a button to add batch items. So what I do here is I created one batch. You can say batch 1. And then I create one more, call it batch 2. This is similar to like grouping, if you are familiar with grouping, which I disabled now, because you can either have a batching or grouping enabled in a code. So, but the difference is, if I just copy paste this one to create a few more elevations. So we can drag and drop and put them in different batches. So I put that in first batch, these, and this one in second batch. So what you can do now is the price of overall all the, first of all, if you go to the batch, you can see the price of that batch, similar to grouping. As you see, there is no BOM or any other functionality added. This is purely for just to see the group batch here. And what you can do is you can hide from price a couple of items that you don't want. Maybe these are options. So let's say, okay, let me do that. Remove this batch. So I have my first batch. Then I copy this. And this is my second batch. And this is an alternative. So the client wanted maybe a finish to be changed on this one and said, give me another code for this. And you want to handle everything in this code, maybe. So what you do is here you click alternative item. So these items automatically are excluded from the overall price of the code. If I come here and say these are not alternatives, then you see I can see the total price of the batch 1 and batch 2 together, but I can exclude that. I can use that alternative item functionality even without batches as well. So you may add another frame and that frame without even using the batch functionality. You can say, okay, I want to make that one alternative. And you can do that as well. So this alternative button is not only for batches, but we can use that as well as for individual code items. And the process we kind of thought is that you can use that for sales purpose, and once the job is ready for production, then probably you can remove your batches and enable grouping. And in production, if you want to use, of course, the team can use back the grouping for that purpose. All right. So if I again create a new code here, so the difference now you see here, you can see that the prefix and suffix in previous versions, those were disabled. Now I can type, the suffix I want and prefix without need of any macro. And that can be controlled in settings, what you want to enable for the users. So if I go back to the options, and reels. Yeah, here the setting is edit prefix and suffix in code. And also another one, allow using previous used code numbers. So that means you can type a code number you want if you don't want that to be generated automatically. So yeah, these are, I guess, for some users, that will be quite useful, this functionality. And the final one is that the quote bags. If you want to add a bag as an ad hoc item in V6 previously, you could do that just by clicking the bag you want from the list and clicking OK. But right now we have a new functionality. We can, on the fly, create a new bag. So if you want to add a couple of, screws or a couple of hardware with quantity 5, and also maybe a few extrusions. So you can do that on the fly in that job. You don't need to create a resource attachment bag and then add that again in the code. So on the fly, live, you can do that in this version. I think for some of the users which this kind of flow matches, that will be quite useful, the functionality. Yeah, Alison, so if there are any questions.
Yeah, so we've had a question come through. Can component pictures be in JPEG file?
Right, so if I just come here and click. Yeah, we have PNG support as well. So 4 different format.
Great. Can the hardware options be set up as default options?
What do you mean by hardware options?
Initially from Paul. Maybe if Paul can just send me a message to clarify that, we can move on to the next question.
Sure.
Can sub-assemblies be created under the frame or sash?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Can sub-assemblies be created under the frame or sash?
Sub-assemblies. Okay. No. The functionality works only for child assemblies, the assembly receptors, not the nested frame receptors. So, and for nested frames, we substitute the nested frames as before. That's how the database will be set up. But for this functionality, sub-assemblies is for assembly receptors and a type of receptors. So if I come here and open back my author frame. Yeah, the receptor type, female type, here should be A if you want to use this default assembly functionality. For W, although the property is there, it will not have any effect. So yeah, that can be used for that purpose.
So just coming back to Paul's question, he asked, can hardware options be set up as default options? He's relating to door hardware options for the doors on a project.
So in the frame,
yeah, can you select the hardware options as a default option?
Right. So let me go here. Yeah, if you were using kind of a picker type of attribute, then in picker attribute we can default the value to a certain. So if I just add a new picker attribute here, I guess what if I'm not wrong, what he means is that I have a picker attribute here, which is a component type hardware, and it lists a certain family, and then from there I can say, okay, this default value will be this. So, and by default in that frame, if I have, of course, the bag setup and the formula setup for this attribute properly done, then according to this, the resulted attribute can come, the resulted component can come in the BOM hardware. And yeah, we can have a default for pickers, but this is valid for 3.6 as well, this part. And now advantage here is, of course, when you pick, you can see the picture of the component. So maybe you don't need a macro anymore. But of course, this is flat, so there is no filtering or any, smart structure behind. Purely, you can click components from a family and bring them. So it will not bring another component automatically or anything that normal and macro can do.
Great. So the next question we have is, are there any updates for project drawings?
Yeah, we have a completely new module that we are designing, and this will effectively be a new module to do drawings, project drawings. That's still in progress. I guess the development team can give a better output on when we can have the first beta release, but that's in pipeline. So, but still we don't have the first beta release available for our customers. Effectively, what we aim with that is the user can create automated generated shop drawings with this module, as well as can have some basic CAD tools to manipulate that output. So this will diminish the requirement of external CAD packages.
Great. I think we'll wrap it up there. So thanks, Murat, for the presentation and for the demo, and thanks for everybody who put through their questions. There are some that have come through that we haven't been able to answer, so our account managers will get in touch with you after the webinar. Just to let you know that we do have some handouts available. If you look at the handout section of our GoToWebinar block, the first handout relates to a release document we did for 3.7 last year, which contains over 40 new features as well as the benefits of those. And the second handout contains the 10 features that we discussed specifically today. So you can use that as a backup for the webinar. And if you have any further questions on those, you could get in touch with either Murat or myself through marketing@softtech.com, or you can get in touch with us through our website at softtech.com. Thanks, Murat, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for attending. And if you have any further questions, or if you want a more detailed demo, you can reach us and ask for that. We have many more functionalities that we can show in 3.7. Thank you.